Tired of clicking through the Windows 11 setup over and over again? Let me show you how to remove the out-of-box experience from your workflow. This video has one clear goal: to build a Windows 11 VDI-ready image that skips that annoying out-of-box experience and goes straight to the login screen at the first boot. Keep watching to see exactly how I did it. Before we dive in, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share with a friend or coworker. If you want to go even deeper, check out my Udemy courses. The links are below. And a huge thanks to my channel members. Your support means a ton. All right, back to it. I'm working on a project where I have to spin up and recreate a bunch of Windows 11 virtual machines in Hyper-V for testing. But going through the Windows 11 out-of-box experience, or OOBE, every single time, no thanks. So in this video, I'll walk you through the process I use to deploy new Windows 11 images that boot straight to the login screen without all of the setup prompts. And this approach doesn't just work in Hyper-V. If you're using another hypervisor or even physical hardware, the method should still apply. Now, I should say this: outside of Azure Virtual Desktop, my day-to-day Windows client experience is pretty limited. But even so, I was able to get this image working exactly the way I needed. If you know a cleaner or more advanced approach, drop it in the comments. It'll help me and anyone else looking for a solution. My first thought was to use the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, but it's retired and no longer supported. So instead, I went with an Unattend.xml answer file. That file automates Windows client deployments. You'll find online tools that will help generate answer files, but I ended up using the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit. It gives you a ton of configuration options, but for this walkthrough, we're only focusing on bypassing the Windows 11 OOBE. So here's the flow I followed. First, I created the Unattend.xml answer file. Then I built the VM that will become the base image. I booted that VM in Audit Mode and made tweaks I wanted baked into that final image. After that, I copied the Unattend.xml answer file into the image VM and ran Sysprep. When Sysprep finished, I made a copy of the VHDX so I could use that for future deployments. And then, of course, I tested the new image. If you want to follow along, you'll need a computer with the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit installed and a Windows 11 ISO. This example used 25H2. You'll also need access to a hypervisor. As always, you'll find links to resources in the description below. So let's kick things off by building the answer file. Here we are on a computer that has the Windows 11 Enterprise ISO downloaded. This example is using version 25H2. It also has the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit installed. We'll use that shortly. We need access to the install.wim file. The first thing we'll do is mount the ISO. From the File Explorer, let's mount that ISO. Let's locate the install.wim file from the mounted ISO. We'll go to Sources and scroll down to install.wim. There it is. We'll copy that. The Windows System Image Manager needs read-write access to this install.wim. We have to copy that to another location on the C drive for that read-write access. We'll go to a directory on the C drive, and we'll paste it into a location on the C drive. There are a lot of steps in this video that take a while to finish. Lots of copying and waiting for things to set up. In many cases, I'm going to pause the video and come back once it's finished. All right, that finished. I placed it in a folder called WSIM. That stands for Windows System Image Manager. Feel free to place your copy wherever you want on the local drive. Next, we'll open Windows System Image Manager. That's located under Windows Kits in the Start menu. If you don't see that, be sure you've downloaded and installed the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit. The first time you open the Windows System Image Manager, it will ask you if you want to create a catalog. Click yes to that. For my example, I'm going to have to go to Tools and create a catalog. We do need admin rights. We'll hit yes. And then browse for that install.wim file. For the image, we'll select Windows 11 Enterprise, not Education, and not Enterprise N. Then OK. And we'll give this a few minutes to create the catalog. As before, I'll pause and come back once it's done. That's done. Now we can start configuring the Unattend.xml. Go to Components and find AMD 64, Microsoft Windows International Core, Neutral. There's also a version number in there. We'll drag this to 7 OOBE System. Do the same for AMD 64, Microsoft Windows Shell Startup, Neutral. Use the latest build. The goal is to bypass the out-of-box experience and get straight to the login window at first boot. The first set of out-of-box experience prompts include the geography, keyboard layout, and other language information. We can pre-answer those questions with this file. Let's open International Core under 7 OOBE system. We need to add the location and language codes. The codes are available at the page on the screen. The link to that is below. For my example, I'm using English US. We'll add this language to input locale, system locale, UI language, and user locale. And of course, you'd have to create different images for different locales. Next, we'll configure the bypass for user licensing information and local user account. Open Windows Shell Setup and then the OOBE section. From here, set the following values to true. Hide EULA page, hide local account screen, hide OEM registration screen, hide online account screens, hide wireless setup in OOBE. This will hide the OOBE startup pages. We're going to configure the local account in just a minute. By the way, the skip machine OOBE and skip user OOBE settings are deprecated. Next, we'll set what data is sent to Microsoft and if applications can access location information with the Protect Your PC option. Set that to 3. That turns off Express settings. You could enable this by GPO if you needed to later. Next, we'll create the local admin account. Go to User Accounts and open Local Accounts. Right-click on Local Accounts and create a new one. Give it a description and display name. Add it to the administrators group. This will make the account a local admin. The name is the login name, local admin for this example. Before we add the password, go to Tools and verify Hide Sensitive Data is selected. The password will not be stored in plain text with this option set. Still, it'd be best to change the password right away and use a tool like Lapse to manage local admin passwords. Now go to Passwords under the new account and enter the password. And of course, you'll need this later to log into any VM that's created with the image. There are a lot of other settings we could configure with this tool. There's even an option to join the computer to the domain. I'm going to stop here because this will accomplish the goal of bypassing the out-of-box experience. Almost there. We can save the file, save it as Unattend.xml. We'll need that shortly, but first we need to create our source VM that will be used to create the image. Next, we'll create the VM in Hyper-V that we'll use as the source. This will have any configuration, settings, or applications we want baked into the image. From Hyper-V, we'll start by creating a new VM. From name and location, give it a name and set the file path for the VM. Set it to a Generation 2 VM. Give it 4 or more gigs of RAM, and we can leave dynamic memory off. Select the network connection. We'll leave it set to default to create a new hard drive. 120 gigs is fine for this example. We'll select the Windows 11 ISO as the installation media. We can go next and finish. That creates the VM, but we need to make some adjustments before we go further. Go into Settings for the new VM. Under Security, enable the Trusted Platform module. That's required for Windows 11. Then go to Processor and change it to 2 or more. Then OK to save. Let's open the VM. We can start the VM, but be sure to hit the Any key to boot from the ISO. We'll go through the initial installation steps. Select the location, keyboard settings, and next. We want to install Windows 11. Click the box if you agree. Just like before, select the Windows 11 Enterprise image, not the Education or N versions. Click Accept if you agree to the terms. We'll use all of the space. And install. And we'll pause here until the installation's finished. Okay, the installation finished, and now we're entering the out-of-box experience, or OOBE. This is what we want to avoid when we deploy an image. At this point, we need to enter audit mode. To do that, we'll click Control Shift and F3 at this screen. That will reboot the computer into audit mode. Audit mode bypasses the OOBE settings and takes us straight into the desktop. This mode is for creating images. It allows us to modify the source computer without having to go through the OOBE experience or create a user. The account that's used to sign in will be gone when we run Sysprep. We can cancel the Sysprep box, and I'll change the resolution so it fits better on the screen. Okay, that's a little better. The next thing we'll do is install updates. This way the image has all of the latest updates. The video will pause here again until the updates are done. Okay, the update's finished and we need to reboot. We'll do that now. Once we enter audit mode, any reboots will take us back into audit mode until Sysprep is ran. And we'll come back once it's rebooted. Okay, we're back. We can close Sysprep again. We can't run Sysprep if the C drive is encrypted. Next, let's disable BitLocker. Go to Settings and Privacy and Security. We'll go to Device Encryption and disable Device Encryption. We could also go to BitLocker Drive Encryption, and it shows us it's decrypting the drive. We can't run Sysprep until that finishes. For this example, I don't want newly provisioned VMs to use BitLocker. Let's disable automatic BitLocker by going to the registry editor. From there, we'll go to HKey local machine, system, current control set, control, and BitLocker. We'll create a new DWORD called prevent device encryption and set the value to 1. We can close registry editor. And once BitLocker finishes decrypting the drive, we can disable the service. We'll go to Services. Look for BitLocker Drive Encryption. We'll stop the service. And we'll set the startup type to disabled. We can close all of these windows. And now just for fun, let's add Chrome. Don't add Chrome or any other applications from the Windows Store. We can't have any per-user applications installed at this point. That will break Sysprep. You can also add any other agents, application drivers, or settings at this point. That's all the configuration for this example, but there is one last step before we create the image. Before we create the image, we need to add the Unattend.xml file to the image source computer. How you do that is up to you. We can't copy and paste files between the hypervisor and the VM. And I don't recommend copying and pasting the text XML into the client. The type clipboard text option hasn't worked well for me. I'm going to place the file in a blob storage container and use a SAS URL to get the file. You could use an FTP site or add it to OneDrive, Dropbox, or Google Docs and download it from the web client. However you do it, we need to copy the Unattend.xml file to the image source computer. Okay, I guess in that case, the typing clipboard text did work well. And before I leave, I will point out, here's where you can view the information we added to the Unattend.xml. One thing I will point out is the password is not stored in plain text. Okay, now that we have that on the local machine, let's move it to the root of the C drive. All right, so now we have the Unattend.xml file at the root of the C drive. We're ready to run Sysprep. Next, we can run Sysprep. Windows should search for and use the Unattend file, but we'll update the Sysprep command as well. This command runs Sysprep with the generalize and out-of-box experience switch. Mode VM tells Sysprep that this image is used in a virtual environment, and it can skip much of the device detection on the first startup. It will shut down once finished, and we specify the location of the Unattend file we previously created. We can copy that into a command prompt and run it to start Sysprep. And again, this will take a couple minutes to finish. The video will pause here again and come back once the VM is shut down. That's done. We created our image. We need to save that image so we can use it to deploy other Windows 11 VMs. Let's go to the virtual hard drive we used for this image computer and copy it to a new location. I'll copy it to a new location, and once the copy finishes, give it a new name. Now we can use this as a starting point for any new Windows 11 VMs. When I need to create a new Windows 11 VM, I'll make a copy of this VHDX and use that copy as the new VM's hard drive. Okay, so that's great, but how do we know it works? Well, there's an easy way to find out. Let's go back to that image source computer we just sysprepped. Now that we made a copy of the virtual hard drive we'll use to create other Windows 11 machines going forward, we can start this VM. It's a copy, so it's in the exact same state as our template image. Now, if it worked, it should go to the login prompt without user input. And it will take a couple minutes, so again, I'll cut some time and speed things up a bit. It wasn't instant. It did go through the first start process and check for updates, but it did not require any user input until the login prompt. We can log in with the username and password we set in the Unattend.xml file. Be sure to change that password once logged in. And it will take another minute to set up the profile. We logged in. That does it. I think the image still needs some additional modifications and tweaking, but this is a good start and achieves the goal of bypassing the out-of-box experience setup screens. And that's how you create a Windows 11 image that bypasses the out-of-box experience and boots straight to the login screen. This image isn't perfect yet. It still needs some tweaking, but it's a solid step forward. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.